Hey guys, Cam here for the season premiere of UnREAL, Season 2, Episode 1, War, and yes, unfortunately, I don't have an intro for this show, which really sucks because of how much I like the show, but obviously, I was really looking forward to this premiere. I'm sure you guys were expecting that. It's probably my second most anticipated, right next to Mr. Robot. This show impressed me so much last season. I did not expect it to be nearly as good as it was, and you guys remember how much I loved it, and this season, I was looking forward to just as much, but I also didn't know what direction we were heading into this season because the finale didn't exactly tell us. I love the finale, but it didn't really tell us where we were headed into this season, and from the trailers, it really did seem like we were going a different direction, and that's one of the things I loved with this premiere, is that it really does feel like a soft reboot. Now, it's not completely different from, obviously, Season 1, because then I wouldn't like it. Then I'd say, oh, it's completely different, it's a completely different show, this is not all the same show. No, it is the same show as Season 1, but it's clear that we're focusing more on different elements that we did not focus as much on in Season 1, and that's something I really do love about Season 2. I mean, just compare the two episodes. The first episode of UnREAL was, us seeing the first episode of Everlasting, and Rachel trying to put it together and us getting introduced to the environment, and this episode was leading up to the first episode, which I thought was very well done. Really loved the way it was done. Really felt like not a different show, just more of an expansion of the show, and definitely there are a lot more things I really did love about this first episode, but let's just get into it because there's a lot to talk about and really some incredible scenes. But I love the way this episode started because right away you can tell exactly what kind of show we're going into, exactly what this is going to be like, and that's something that I really love, shown very well in this first scene. Now, I was actually expecting them to start off with the first episode of Everlasting, because that's how they started off in the first episode, but they go in a completely different direction in this first episode, and really just show you this is going to be a much different season. We see Rachel and Quinn, they're at a tattoo parlor, they're getting matched tattoos that says money, dick, power, to basically remember their priorities, because this is what matters to them. The money, the making sure, that there's men, the dick, and then the power, that they have power over everything, and it's pretty much, I think, the theme of the season as well, which we'll get into. But Quinn says they're going to be kings, and they take a picture showing off their tattoos. They walk through the set being built for Everlasting, at least that's what I thought it was. I don't really know what it was exactly. But Quinn tells Rachel that this is her year. Rachel says that she's in a dream. Quinn tells her to stop acting like she's not as happy as pig and shit right now. Rachel says she's very excited, and she thinks it's the right thing to do, and Quinn says to stop selling her and save it for the networks, which is why they fly to Vegas and save for the network, and as soon as they approve her idea, she can start kicking back and enjoy her 7-figure production deal, and Rachel asks how many times she's going to say it. Then gets a call from Adam, who I don't know when we're going to see Adam again, but Rachel does decline a call from Adam, but she doesn't tell Quinn about it, which is interesting. So they get into a car, and again, even though Quinn and Rachel are so tight, she does not tell Quinn that Adam is calling her. And probably because, as we know, Quinn tried to ruin their relationship. She basically did ruin their relationship. They were going to run away together, as we knew. Rachel basically gave in to Quinn, and instead of, telling off Quinn, she decided to actually work with Quinn, mainly because Quinn's, like I said, the only person, is really one of the only constants in Rachel's life, and, she really doesn't have any other constants. All the other constants in her life, a lot of people dislike Rachel, and I do like the direction they're headed with that right away. So they get into a car. Quinn says they're going to Vegas, and that was a very good way to start the episode. Really did show where we're headed. Like I said, it shows we're in a much different direction in Season 2, and really love the way things kicked off here. But probably the most unexpected direction this episode is what ends up happening with Chet, because as we know, we don't really know what happened with Chet. I mean, Chet, basically, I guess, he was banned from the set. As we know, he was banned from the set by, I can't think of his name right now. Brad. He was banned from Brad, and he's in a woods in Patagonia, and he's shooting an arrow at a deer, and he's clearly lost a lot of weight, and I think the actor as well has lost a lot of weight, which is awesome that he has, because, especially, putting on all that weight, it's cool that he was able to lose that weight. So Rachel, Quinn, the entire production team party to new season, as well as congratulating her as the head of it all, because Quinn is now, of course, in Chet's position. Quinn is now the one that runs everything. Quinn tells them that they have a surprise, introduces this new season suitor, NFL quarter, Darius, who is also the first black suitor ever in a reality competition. It really does show how daring UnREAL is to do this, because I'm surprised that no reality show has ever done that before. I mean, The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, especially because of the world we live in today, there has never been a black bachelor or bachelorette ever. So UnREAL was the first show to do, which I think is genius that they did that. And Brad asks if she's serious, and she says it's a brain tumor, and Darius welcomes him. Brad says he made his day. They return to partying, and Chet is with some kind of Indian tribe in Patagonia. They tell him to go get his kingdom back, and Rachel is having sex with Darius's cousin Romeo and says that she is the one who got Darius. And you can just tell this Rachel is a lot looser, definitely. She's not, she definitely is not as afraid to do things. She does things much quicker and she really doesn't think things through, which I kind of like. And basically, she says she's the one who, and we realize that she is the one who actually got Darius and says she's going to make history, which is totally something Rachel would do. We know that Rachel likes to makes daring decisions and likes to do, make big moves and everything, and that's exactly what Rachel did here. She made a bold move to cast someone like Darius. It's awesome that she did that, and we have Rachel to thank for that, which is awesome. So, basically, the network president, Gary, then calls complaining about Darius being black and shows them a video of an interview Darius did where he said, "Bitch, please," and stormed out angrily, and clearly he is, frowned upon for this, and Gary asks if this is their idea of a new love interest, and Quinn says what Darius says is nothing more than the term endearment, which she says to Rachel all the time, and says Darius wouldn't do their show if he wasn't there to fix his image, reassures him that he'll be dating white girls, and hopefully, making deep, dark, nasty love to them too, and tells him that they will get 20 million views the next minute he has his hands on white ass. Twitter will melt down, tells him about the girls this year. Basically, what she tells him is very interesting. She tells him they're going to find like a racist, they're going to find like a terrorist, they're going to find all these different kinds of girls, and says it's his call. He says if this is on her, if something goes wrong, and Rachel's surprised that actually went through. She didn't think it was actually going to work, but it did, and Quinn asks if she got all that, and tells her that she has to find all the girls, and right away you can tell that Rachel has a lot more duties this season than she did last year. This is no longer her just trying to create drama. This is no longer her doing that. She now is in charge of pretty much everything, and Rachel says the show is cast. Quinn says it's her job, she's in Chet's position, and she's in Quinn's. Rachel is Quinn, and Quinn is Chet, which I think is very interesting. I like the way that that's going. And Rachel, basically, she says crazy shit. Rachel makes it happen. Rachel is in the limo then with Darius and shows him what his house will be like for the next 9 weeks. And there's so many things I loved about this scene with Darius. I thought it was very well done. There were a lot of things I thought were very well done here. But Rachel asks why it seems like he's not as excited about this. And he asks if he's on camera 24 hours a day. She says he stars in a television program, and that's what they're supposed to do. And then she gets a call and steps out, and Darius asks Romeo what he got him into, and Romeo says he signed up for this and knew what it would be like going in, and he has a bad attitude, and Darius puts on his headphones to ignore him, and Rachel then gets a call from Quinn, who asks what's going on. Quinn asks if she got Darius to move in. Rachel says she's working on it, and Quinn says that she feels he's going to give them trouble because of his cousin and man troop, because basically they have all these other guys following them, and Rachel says that she'll handle it. Quinn says she's been doing that ever since she met him, and tells her Gary is freaking out because he is unsure if they can top last season, and asks if they have to kill someone every episode. If you remember, Mary died in that one episode, which I do feel like is going to happen again just because it's UnREAL. I feel like you're going to do that, but Rachel asks when she's going to be there. Quinn says to give her an hour. Rachel then goes to the limo, tells Romeo that his friends are the ones that she said wouldn't show up there, and tells him to get them out of her way. He leaves, and then we get this really great scene with Darius that I absolutely loved, and really, again, shows how different this season really is going to be. One of the reasons I loved this episode so much and, how different it was is because of Darius's character. We remember Adam from last season. He seemed like a nice guy when really he was kind of a dick, and all he really wanted was, the hot girl, and he just kind of, was royal and everything. He was just really spoiled. I mean, we know he loved Rachel, but clearly we're going in a much different direction with Darius, and that's something I really loved about his character in this scene. Basically, she decides to confront Darius because really he needs to she needs to find out what's going on. I mean, he's clearly not happy about being there, and asks him what's going on. Darius says he's supposed to be in Kobo enjoying his off season. Rachel says that's not going to get him out of his PR problem, and he assures her he didn't call that woman a bitch. She says she doesn't think he did. She thinks he tried to bait him. She came over and talked to her right after he got off the field, and there's no way to control him, and anyone would have snapped, really. And he says he's not anybody. He's an NFL quarterback. He is a big deal, and he's not really conceited about it, though, but it's true. He's not anybody. It's a big deal if an NFL quarterback says shit like that. And she says he's right. There's a lot special about him. She asks what his mom said. He says his mom was not happy because she raised him to know the rules were always going to be different for him. He couldn't walk on the street with his hoodie on since people would get the wrong idea, and try to give himself a really squeaky clean image, and now he's done something that's very minute, but isn't very minute because he's been fairly clean, and this one thing he said is really effective, and it really does show how if you're a celebrity, you could say the smallest amount of details, and it could get misconstrued, terribly. I mean, that's totally what happened with Darius, is that this has just gone way misconstrued. You know, it's not at all what Darius wanted, and now he's in something like this. Rachel says it does not make him who he is. He says he feels like a caged lion, barely keeping a lid on the whole time, and she tells him what she did when she was a contestant in Everlasting, and I like the way that Rachel and Darius bonded over this, because we know what Rachel's been through, but she's basically overcome her past. You kind of get that in this episode, that she's kind of overcame all the damage she went through last season. It's kind of gone. You know, she's not doing drugs. She's not, you know, she's not, you know, freaking out as much. You definitely do see that here. And says she can bring him back. He asks her what her plan is. She says she has a house full of ladies for him, and he has the opportunity to fall in love with one of them. He says to not get crazy. She asks if he doesn't believe in love. He says things are complicated. She says, first of all, he's not to refer himself in third person, and second of all, none of the women know who the suitor is, and none are here to bag the celebrity, and asks him when the last time that happened. He says middle school, but says once they realize who the suitor is, that will all change. You know, he really feels that he's only there because he's a celebrity and he's black, which is something I really do love. You know, he really doesn't feel like he should be there, and she says to keep an eye on them. He might be surprised. He says bitch please. She says she's bitch pleasing him. They get out of the limo, and just such a well done scene. I love the way that was done. There was so much revealed about this character just in those, you know, few minutes that we got, and I really did enjoy that, and it really does show, you know, they're going in a much different direction than they did with Adam. This is a suitor that really doesn't necessarily want to be a suitor. He was kind of thrown into this. He didn't really want to do this, and that's something I really do like. It's not really a character we faced before, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more of Darius' character. I love the actor as well. He was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I'm really looking forward to seeing what else he does with this role, because already I really do love his character. So Wagerstein then goes to Rachel. If you remember, basically Wagerstein and Quinn, they made that deal where she gets to have her own personal segments on the show, and she says she needs to talk about the healing nook to build her on-air segments. But of course, Rachel doesn't know what she's talking about, because Rachel never heard about this. She went to Quinn about this, never to Rachel though. And Rachel says to put in a formal request, and Wagerstein says that her mother called and she's been talking to Jeremy again. And here's the thing I love about this, that they made it seem like it was this huge cliffhanger in season 1, but it's not, because Rachel's moved on. Basically, you know, we see obviously Jeremy's talking to her mother, and I think it is going to come up eventually, but right now it's not a huge deal. And I thought that was interesting, because they made it seem like it was going to be this huge cliffhanger in season 1 that was going to change a lot of things, and it really didn't. I mean, yes, it's changed some things, but Rachel went to Quinn, and this really isn't her problem right now, which I think is very interesting, that it's not as big as a deal as we necessarily thought it was, because I thought it was going to be a big deal, and apparently it wasn't. So basically, you know, he's saying that she's having this hypersexual manic episode. She goes talk to him about it, and Jeremy is a lot more dismissive and a lot more of an asshole than he was in season 1, but rightfully so. I think he has a right to be this upset. I mean, especially what she was doing with Adam. Basically, Jeremy is in full revenge mode. You can totally tell this season he's definitely not holding back with how he feels about Rachel. We know last season he held back because he saw how bad she felt, and he really did care about her. This season, he doesn't give a fuck about her, and I honestly really do like the side of Jeremy. It's a kind of this, you know, snarky, quirky, just dickish side of Jeremy that we really didn't see last season, and honestly, I kind of like it. And it doesn't make him come across an asshole. It makes him come across as Rachel getting kind of what she deserves. I mean, she screwed him over. This is what she gets for it, and I do like seeing that. So, basically, she talks to Jeremy, and Jeremy says that she looks like she hasn't slept in weeks, and basically, she asks if that's all he's worried about. She says she's doing well, she got a promotion, and somehow that triggers, like, alarm bells for him, and he says he doesn't give a rat's ass about her, but if someone likes him, needs to testify that she's a danger to herself, he's there. And she asks if that's right. He says it's mostly for the others, because at this point, he's okay with her hurting herself, and he's fairly certain she will. She says it is a really dark thing to say. Asks why he would come back if he hated her, because obviously he hated her, and I like his response. He says he did it because it was his job, and really, yeah, I mean, you can't really not do something. And asks if she thought he really wouldn't have come back because of her. She says yes. He says old Jeremy wouldn't have done that. He was a pussy back then, and this is the new Jeremy. And really, you do see a new side of Jeremy. There's no longer Lizzie in the picture who he's engaged to and has to look good for her. Now he can basically say whatever he wants. He can do whatever he wants as long as Rachel doesn't fire him, and I can't wait to see what else he's going to try to do with Rachel throughout this season, because honestly, a lot of it was really funny. Very darkly funny, like a lot of the show does very well, but a lot of it was a lot of fun just to see Jeremy fuck with Rachel, see what he's going to do, see how he's going to try to mess things up for her, make her upset. I really do like seeing that. So Quinn shows up to the Everlasting set, and it's raining, like it's pouring rain, and asks where Rachel is and tells them to get over. She goes in, and one of the contestants, Yael, tells them her name, and it isn't pronounced like the college, so I'm not going to call her Yael because it's pronounced Yael. That's how she wants to be pronounced. And she sees the crew, and again asks Rachel where she is. She says she's working on the intros, and Quinn says she's screwing up the intros. Madison is there with a thumb up her ass and asks who should decide to make her producer. And I love that Quinn forgot that she did that just because it's not her job anymore. And basically, Quinn asks if she got the Looney Tunes, which is what she's calling the girls. Rachel says that Jay got one of the girls, Tiffany, on camera. Quinn says she's pretty, but can she speak? Jay explains how the video is going to work out and says that she's going to say her name and tell them about her dad. And Tiffany says she already told her she doesn't want to talk about her father. And Quinn says it's juicy stuff. Now, I'm actually looking forward to seeing what's going on with Tiffany's father. I'm sure we're going to find out. But clearly, she has a very troubled past, and that's something we're looking forward to. Anna, from last season became the most interesting characters because of her troubled past. But this is much different. Tiffany, we find out, is actually a sport. She's a rich girl. She's actually from the NFL. She's a football princess, and her dad is this really rich guy, and he probably isn't. We don't really know. Maybe he doesn't have the best reputation. I'm not really sure. But that's something we're looking forward to seeing, is what's going on with Tiffany. Already really drawn into her character, and that's something a little bit unreal, is how they're just going to give us 15 new girls, but they're all so interesting. We're all I'm very invested in all their characters, and basically that's how a reality show goes. Quinn asks about her villain. Rachel says she's getting ready, tells her she wants to see a picture of one of the girls, and Beth Ann, who got 30,000 hits on Instagram, and in the picture she's wearing an American flag bikini, and then introduces her to London, who is a super sexy Pakistani woman who might have distant links to Osama bin Laden. Of course, Quinn promised a terrorist, so she's their terrorist. Then shows her Ruby, who is a very passionate speaker, and Quinn is excited to see how her and Beth Ann will interact and most likely fight, because Beth Ann is very much against whites, and Ruby is, a black activist. So Jay says that Ruby couldn't commit to the full 9 weeks because she's missed her college graduation, and Jay's surprised by Rachel's reaction. She just doesn't care, and that's something actually I like, is that Rachel does not give a fuck about these women. Like last season, she cared very much, trying to make things right for them and trying to make it seem as easy as possible. But this season, since she doesn't have to do that job, she doesn't care, and it makes sense. I mean, it's not really her problem how these women feel about her. If they don't really like her, then fine. To her, all that matters is putting on this show. And honestly, I kind of feel bad for Rachel because of that, because she could be doing something a lot better right now. She could be with Adam, but I feel like a lot of that hope she's kind of put away, and now she's just focused on this, and because that, she's kind of grown bitter because of it, and you definitely do see that. Though she is confident, it's very interesting the way she is, and Jay right away notices, why she's acting like that, and I like, what she asks, because Jay brings up this point that, she doesn't want to miss her college graduation, but Rachel doesn't really care, she has to get Ruby in some way. And Jay asked the question I think we're all asking, is why is she acting like nothing happened between her and Quinn? Because clearly a lot happened there. And she asks what he means. He says after she blew up her life last season by the atom bomb, and she says she worked it out. And he says she got paid, and she says she is the showrunner. And right now she's asking him why he was not able to close Ruby. And he says he didn't think he had a line, but derailing a strong woman's black education is that line. And she says it would be a huge statement for black viewers, and if they have to lose some along the way for people for the greater good, so be it. Ask him again where she is, and again, you can just really tell how controlling and conniving Rachel's really become. I mean, she really is just controlling as Quinn, but it makes sense why she's in this direction, because like I said, it's not really her problem anymore. What's her problem is running the show and making sure the show turns as good as it does, and that really is what matters to Rachel, and nothing else matters as much, and I definitely do like seeing that. I think it's an interesting direction to take your character in. It's unexpected, but I do like the direction that's going, and I definitely really do enjoy that. Any change that Rachel had, she's made the change, but now it's all about, her making the show. I really do love the direction that's going, and I think it's already very interesting. But then we get, I think, definitely one of the highlights in this episode, where Rachel goes to Ruby's college, and Ruby is probably the most interesting of the girls that we meet in this episode. I think out of all the girls, she's the one I'm most drawn into. She immediately Ruby tells her no. Rachel says he didn't have all the information, and Ruby says there is no information that is going to make her go on a racist, misogynistic reality show she doesn't even watch, and Rachel tells her they have 16 million viewers a week, so her political platform and her Twitter fame is about to expire like bad milk. And Ruby says the black girls only last a couple weeks on those shows, and they don't get airtime. And yeah, I mean, look at Shamiqua last season. Remember what happened with her? She was like cut, and she was like fifth. She was cut, and basically Rachel then tells her about the suitor, and she asks if she thought she worked this hard through Berkeley to get a man, and Rachel says she didn't ask her to get a man. She says she should stay there and let her professors read her senior thesis about post-colonial Africa, and she wouldn't want to be in a TV show, even though Teen Mom helped decrease the number of teen pregnancies in America, and the Real World basically started the gay rights movement, which I didn't know that. Very interesting. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, that's not true, but I mean, you know, it happened. So she tells her she can guarantee her she will make it to the final two in 9 weeks and 16 million viewers each week. Now, obviously, she's trying to sway her over. We know for sure she doesn't really care. Rachel then calls Jay, tells her Ruby is in, and they'll see how long she lasts. And he's clearly pissed because he really didn't think she was actually going to do this. And this is Jay saying, you know, Rachel is no longer my friend. Rachel is now my boss. I'm not going to treat her like my friend. I'm going to treat her like my boss. And if she's going to be like Quinn, then I'm going to address her like Quinn, because that's exactly what Rachel's doing. She's being as conniving, as bitchy as Quinn. And the reason I think Rachel's doing this because it's worked so well for Quinn. I think Rachel's thinking that it'll work so well for her because it's worked so well for Quinn. I think that's basically the reason why Rachel is being as bitchy and stuck up as she is about this, which is interesting. So Quinn then lights a candle, and then the worst possible thing that could happen happens in this next scene. So after she lights that candle, Chet comes in. He's lost tons of weight, and he says this is what happens when he lost 50 pounds of weightness, sadness, and pussy dump. And she asks him what he's doing here since Brad suspended him from set duty, and he says Brad doesn't work at the network anymore, and the network is going to have to hire someone else. You know, Brad is now fired, and she asks if he just disappeared for 6 months and gets Brad fired. He said he didn't disappear. He went on a Paleolithic lifestyle retreat with his new leader. If you don't know what Paleolithic means, it means Paleolithic. It was like, you know, before electronics, things like that, so kind of like ancient times. And she asked if this is CrossFit. He says he went hunting in Patagonia with his tribe, and that's how they've evolved. He says a man is the man unless he's got a purpose, and he got soft last year, tried to fill the dark hole of his manhood, but processed, floured, and sugar, and jobs, and forced her to play the man role. It wasn't fair, and natural women are meant to be nurtured and adored, and a guy has to do things, and this is his kingdom and purpose, and he wants it back. And what I love is that while Chet has changed, he's not any better. Like, he's just as much of a dick. He's just as much of, you know, misogynistic as he was. He's not better at all. In fact, I think he's more misogynistic than ever. And I like it, though. I like that's perfect for Chet. That is totally who Chet is. And, you know, other shows that say, oh, he's too misogynistic. But here, that's who Chet is. You know, Chet is a misogynistic dick, and I love that. I love that he is that character because it creates a lot of really good conflict. And UnREAL is best when it has a lot going on. And basically, she says she earned it, and it's hers. He says he's a chief, he got anointed, and she says she's the queen of the fairies, and she would like him to get out of her fairy fort. She tells him to get out and get off her set because she can call Gary too. And then he goes to Darius, and he does a very smart but very conniving thing. It really does remind us how conniving Chet really is, because he introduced himself, says he created the show, tells him that he's sorry he wasn't around earlier to introduce himself. He had the girls running things while he was running away, and while he was away. I love that he basically says that he was the one doing all this, because again, Chet feels that he's in charge no matter what, and he says they don't look as happy as they should. Ask them what they need, and we don't really know where he's going with this. What he's going to do, we find out eventually later, but we don't really know right now. So Rachel then explains to the crew how the episode's going to go. Jeremy asks Jay if he has the kill list, a list of the girls getting cut so the camera guys know who they can sleep with, which I don't think we heard about in the last season. I don't know if that's a new thing, but I don't think we heard that at all last season. And Jeremy says that he wants Yael, surprisingly, who, of course, you know, he refers to as none other than hot Rachel, which I think is very interesting when we have this character. Now, I will admit, Yael, excuse me, Yael as a character, yes, she's very hot. Out of all the girls, probably, she is the Grace of this season. I will definitely admit that. But basically, basically, he literally says, this is literally in front of the entire crew, that she's hot but not crazy, takes showers, says all the guys are gunning for her, but the boss always gets first, and Quinn even shuts him down. I mean, obviously, yeah, that was really a dick move to literally tell your boss that she's not hot. I mean, that's your boss, and Quinn tells Rachel she can't get upset about this, she needs to suck it up. If they fired everyone they had sex with, they wouldn't have a crew, and Rachel goes back to her duties. And I like that we can see that Rachel is damaged, but she's hiding it, and the way that she's damaged, you can't really tell. I love the way that was done. I thought that was really a very well done scene. And then we see Madison, who is now in what Rachel's position was last season, which I really do like the direction they're headed with Madison. This was probably Madison's best episode yet, because up till now, Madison's been Quinn's, you know, assistant. She's done little things here and there. Of course, you know, she gave Chet a blowjob, we know, but after that, she basically promoted herself to producer, and now that she's producer, because of Wagerstein basically helped her with that, but now she's producer, there's a lot more things that Madison is facing, but it's also, I think, going to make her a lot more confident, and I'm looking forward to really seeing where that goes. but she goes to see if the girls are okay. Beth Ann tells her she's very wild and she doesn't know if Chantel is going to feel at home with her. Clearly, Madison cannot tell that Beth Ann is very racist, and she just feels it's going to be uncomfortable for her. Madison says she'll talk to Rachel, see if she can make some changes for her. Beth Ann thanks her, and Rachel asks the camera crew who's asking for the kill list, and the guy who says he was is fired, but Jeremy says that she can't fire his focus point unless she wants opening nights to be out of focus. Rachel says we'll just make them look like incompetent assholes, and it's not her problem, and tells him to handle it, and really, I mean, Rachel is just a savage. She is not taking any shit from Jeremy whatsoever. So then Rachel goes back to her office, asks Jay if he got the car for Ruby. He says she got in her room a few minutes ago, getting settled in. And then Madison then comes in, tells her about it, if it's okay, switching rooms with Beth Ann. Tells her they don't solve problems, and I love what she says, that they don't solve problems, they create them, then point cameras at them. And they need her to go outside and create an on-camera fight between the two. And she asks Wagerstein for the problems they're both facing. And Chantel apparently had a husband die in a car crash, and she's also gets to have a lot of problems with, holding, anger and things like that. And Rachel tells Madison she's going to use that, interview her, and it's going to build all kinds of sympathy for Chantel, but Beth Ann is going to look like a bitch for not rooming with her. And obviously Beth Ann is the villain of the season. It's clear that that's what they want to do. So Madison says she's not sure if she's going to talk about that, and she can't force her, and Rachel says to make up a story and relate to Chantel's situation, but it turns out that Madison's mother really did die. It's not, a made-up story. She did, in fact, die. Jay tells her that was real nice, asks her she's going to make Quinn look like the good cop, and Rachel says that her plan is to make Everlasting as successful and have as much viewership as possible. Quinn goes to her, she says she forgot to tell her that being the boss sucks, and gives her wine, because she can tell she's obviously under a lot of stress. And this is something I love, is that while Quinn and Rachel's relationship is very manipulative and very, destructive, it's also very sweet in the sense that Quinn is like a surrogate mother to her. She tells her that, gives her wine, tells her here's to booze, fancy clothes. It's a very good scene. Really love the way that was done. But then we get what is probably the hardest scene to watch in this episode. It really reminds us how great UnREAL is at scenes like this. If you guys remember, probably some of the hardest scenes to watch in the episodes last season were the ones where we were interviewed with these characters and they had to edit stuff out to make it look like the characters were saying one thing. We found out stuff they didn't want to reveal, such as Anna's character, things like that. And we're really reminded about that with Madison's interview with Chantel, which is pretty much one of the most horrifying things Madison's ever done. And like I said, I really think this scene in general was Madison's best performance. I absolutely loved it. Basically, she's interviewing Chantel, asks for her story. Rachel says she's going to have, and basically, it's not going well. Madison is basically asking Chantel, basically, very easy questions, and Rachel just wants to get the drama. She says she's going to have to do it all by herself, and Quinn says she won't learn if she doesn't delegate and teach her she's in charge of everything in the monitors, not just getting one girl to cry. That was Rachel's job last year. This year, she's in charge of everything. Why? Because Quinn thought she could handle it, which I think she can, but also I think she can't. I think Rachel thinks she can handle a lot more than she really can. So Rachel then gets Madison on the walkie, tells her what to say. Chantel finally talks about her fiance, and turns out that not only was Chantel, in the car, she was the driver. And Rachel makes Madison ask if she killed him. Chantel asks how she can say her that, how she can ask her that, and Madison starts crying about her mother. And Rachel tells her to stop crying, ask her if she'll ever love her again. And I love at first that Madison was talking directly to the walkie, obviously because Chantel asks who she's talking to, and Chantel says she will die trying, and then she takes the mic off, she walks away. Jeremy then puts Madison on camera, throwing up, says he's sorry, and I think it's just to show Rachel what she's done, and says he's sorry Rachel made her do that. She says it felt amazing, and it's really interesting because the way that Madison acted in this scene, you could tell it was obviously really hard for her to do, but she also felt kind of empowered. The fact that she lied, the fact that she, was able to do everything the way she did, and the fact that she did get this out of Chantel, she does feel powered, and I really love the way that was done. Really good stuff, and I'm really hoping we see more scenes of this with Madison. I honestly see us going to a lot more confident, and maybe even just as, destructive Madison as everyone else, really. I could really see her going in that direction. Madison right now has always been the innocent little lamb, basically, is what I'd like to refer to her as, but I think she's going to turn into a lot more of a beast than we've seen her after scenes like this, and I really do love seeing that. So, really good stuff there. Like I said, one of the hardest scenes to watch this episode. No one wants to have to reveal that. that, just knowing what Chantel went through. Looking forward to seeing what's going on with her character, but very sad to see. But then we really do quick get things kicked into high gear in this next scene, which was incredible and a big shock, and absolutely, really, I think, sets off what this season is going to be like. So the first episode's about to start. London is refusing to wear a headscarf, but Rachel makes her because Quinn promised the network a terrorist this season, and because that they have to make them wear headscarves. Madison says a headscarf doesn't make you look like a terrorist, which she's not wrong, but Quinn says a girl that wears pigtails for her age, she makes her look retarded. And the first episode starts. Quinn congratulates her. Rachel says she's just starting, and once Graham arrives, because at first they can't find him, the season premiere starts, and you feel like you're back on UnREAL. Just seeing Everlasting happen again. It was awesome. It really was. Just seeing Graham, I mean, that was the thing probably I was most looking forward to, was just seeing the first episode of Everlasting, seeing how that was going to go. Because on Everlasting, Graham welcomes them to the season, is about to introduce them to Darius, but once he opens the limo, he's gone. He's nowhere to be found. We don't know where he's gone, but he's not there, and Quinn gets a call from Chet, who says that Darius is his suitor now, and she's got to deal with him. Quinn asks her how she let the suitor out of her sights, and basically, she's got to deal with him. Quinn asks her how she let the suitor out of her sight. Rachel says she had Madison on it, says they need to push one day, but Quinn is furious. You know, she tells her that they are not doing that. They're going to get their suitor, tells everyone to get back to work, and again, you can tell that Quinn is clearly taken over. Rachel is no longer in charge. This is now Quinn that's taken over, and they go to find Darius, who's at a shrimp party. Quinn hugs Gary, and Quinn goes to speak with Chet and asks him what he's doing, and he says he's fighting like a man. She says he has Darius, but what about the girls? He says he has girls, and she says he loaded up a van with strippers, and every girl she handpicked with a story and weaved them into television drama. That she turned into massive ratings, which he has never done, and that's true. Quinn was the one that did all the juicy drama and got all the girls and things like that. Chet was only concerned about were they hot or not, if you remember. So, you know, Chet is probably the worst of the three, definitely. So, Rachel's with Romeo, asks what's going on. He asks if it's true that he's a walking dildo, and says it takes a player to know a player. Chet says that the show needs a major revamp, and when he was on his retreat, he wasn't just thinking about himself, he was thinking about the show's legacy. Now, I do kind of agree with Chet here, that maybe they do need to turn things around, but I think a Black Bachelor is enough. There's a lot of different stuff you can do there, but basically, he thinks of the whole helicopter stunt, everything they did last season, it's just not what women want. Women want a man who could kill with his bare hands, and Rachel asked Chet, Rachel asked what Chet offered them, and Romeo says private accommodations, their cell phones, and 3-year sports casting deals, all stuff that they don't really know if they're actually going to get. I feel like Chet just said this to them. Rachel says he doesn't have the authority to offer them something like that. Romeo says Gary did, and Chet says they have created a generation of women's bitches that have a whole audience who's waiting for them to show a natural order of things, and Chet says he's sure he's not on drugs. He says he's never been this clean, and he says he was everything he wanted to be, and he ended up being a castrated, obese mess, and she ended up successful. She asks him what he wants. He says he wants the girls to come to Darius in bikinis and poolside cocktails, and she says they would lose 3 more hours of hard night on a company move, and that would leave them 3 hours to shoot. He says to bring Darius to the mansion right now, she'll ditch the evening gowns and give him what he wants, or she can tell Gary that they're going to push back a few hours and a few more days, and he says that they'll do it her way. He says this is far from over. He's getting his kingdom back, and let the best man win. Quinn says she usually does, and Quinn tells Rachel that Chet just declared war, and it was such a well-done scene. Basically sets up the season. I love the way this was done. They all go back to the mansion, and Quinn is in full control now. You know, she's telling the network what the plan is, tells all the girls to change Ruby. However, she doesn't have a bikini, which, again, very interesting. I just like the way that Ruby stands out from the crowd. You know, she doesn't want to just be, she's not there for sex appeal. She's there because she wants to be a voice to the crowd. You know, she doesn't even really want to be on the show. They kind of forced her into it, and I really do like the way that's going so far. It's really interesting overall. Ruby's just a really interesting character. I like where we're going with her. So, basically, tells all the girls to change Ruby. However, basically, Rachel says that she'll fix it. Quinn then sees Yael, agrees that she's hot Rachel. Rachel tells her not to, but tells her she does look like her, tells them she doesn't want to see any razor burn, and Rachel tells Quinn that if she keeps moving around like this, the crew is going to have a really hard time, believing she's the showrunner. And Quinn asks if she was showrunning when she let Chet steal their suitor. Now, I will admit, Quinn did have points here. The fact that Rachel, didn't check on Chet, like I said, I don't think Rachel can really handle all this, and Rachel says says that she was recruiting Ruby. She didn't even warn her Chet was back, which, yeah, Quinn did not give her any advance or any warning that, hey, Chet is, might be in sight. You need to protect Darius. There was nothing with that. She thought she had everything secured. And Quinn says that no one reminds her of anything. Rachel says that is not the deal they had. And Quinn says that she's her girl, but she needs Chet dead forever. She'll get another shot. She's just gonna fix a train wreck, and then the show is all hers. She reminds her of money, dick, and power. They start the first episode, while Rachel clearly feels that she's not really in charge anymore. She now feels like Quinn is in charge. Perfect way to start perfect way to end the first episode. Love the way this is going, and really sets up what the rest of the season is going to be. But let's get more into this episode, where I think the rest of the season is going, because obviously there's a lot to talk about with that. So overall, guys, amazing premiere. I really did love this episode. There are a lot of things I really did love here, because now it seems like, here's the thing with Quinn and Rachel, like I said, is that their relationship, is sweet at times, but it's also really destructive, in the sense that Quinn will always get what she wants, and it's always what Quinn wants over what Rachel wants. And especially when it comes to Chet, it will always be what Quinn wants. Quinn will always try to take down Chet, and especially in this situation, even though, she clearly downgraded Rachel and told her, look, you need to know your place, she's more concerned about taking down Chet, and it's a very interesting the way that that's going. I can't wait to see how that ends up turning out. I mean, I'm sure Chet is not gonna, end up successful here. Chet is definitely going to get brought down by Quinn. That definitely is gonna happen. I definitely don't see Chet, getting out of this. Definitely that's not gonna happen. But as far as that's going, very interesting. It seems like the rest of the season, the war was the perfect title, because, yeah, it really is a war between Rachel, Quinn, and Chet. They all want power in some way. Rachel, I just don't think really can handle it all. I think Rachel didn't really realize what this job really entailed. I think she thought she could do it, and she really can. There are clearly a lot of things she's dealing with, and she can't really deal with it all. Quinn, I mean, she's known what she's doing for years, and then Chet thinks that he should be in charge of everything, and I can't wait to see actually who ends up doing this. I mean, it's kind of like Empire, but it's so much more interesting than Empire, because the characters, there's so much more going on with them, and I really do love that. I think the characters we were introduced to, I really did love, and I can't wait to see the way that whole thing turns out. Chet, I feel like Chet is going to play a big role here. Is Quinn going to be able to get Chet completely out of the picture? I don't really know. I mean, we know that Chet is very negotiable, and he's very good at negotiating. And he's also very good at manipulating and, making it seem like you're the guilty one. And I feel like he's going to try to guilt Quinn into this. I don't know how he's necessarily going to do that, but I feel like that's what he's going to do, and I can't wait to see how the situation turns out. As far as Jeremy, Jay, I feel like they're giving Rachel the treatment that she deserves. Jay is calling her out, saying, why are you acting this way with Quinn? Because clearly things are not okay with Quinn. They're pretending things are okay, but it's really not. I mean, Quinn pretty much did ruin her life. She didn't let her have a life outside of the show, and Rachel wanted a life outside of this, as we know. She wanted to be with Adam, and she didn't get to have that future. And then she sabotaged, Adam and Anna's wedding, because that's what they planned, and, she stuck with the plan, so that whole situation's turning out. I am wondering if we're gonna see Adam in an episode, though. I mean, I did hear that Freddie Stroma say that he does have a cameo, and I really hope that call is not the only cameo. I'm hoping that it is a full-fledged cameo where we do see him, those two do meet up, they figure out what's going on between them, because that's something that they need to know. But I do like that Rachel and Darius are not at all romantically involved. I think it's better to not do that. I think it worked last season. Do something different this season. Darius doesn't even seem the least bit interested in, well, he seems interested in Rachel, but it seems like they're more friends, and I definitely really do like that. I'm hoping they keep it that way, because I really do like, Darius as a character. I'm looking forward to seeing really where he goes, and if he's able to right the wrongs of what he really did, because clearly he feels a lot bigger of a deal than it really is, because really, in reality, he didn't really do anything that bad, but he thinks he did a lot of bad things, and it's very interesting to see where that goes. I can't wait to see the way that all turns out. The girls who were introduced in this episode, I really love all their characters. I think Beth Ann, the other thing I love is that, many of the girls last season were not as rude or mean as they portrayed them. Beth Ann, however, is. Beth Ann clearly is making it seem like she's the guilty one. Not that she's the guilty one, but that Chantel's the guilty one. She's clearly trying to make it seem like she's the innocent one, and is trying to, basically punish Chantel for it. I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of trouble that Beth Ann is going to stir up, because already she's very interesting. Yael seems like a good character. I hope we get more with her than just hot Rachel, though. I'm hoping there is some development with her character. Is some with her and Jeremy going to happen? I mean, I don't know. The way that Jeremy's going, I could honestly see those two having a lot of sex this season, just because of the fact that Jeremy seemed like he's doing whatever he can to get Rachel really upset, because I feel like he thinks she deserves it, and honestly, she does. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with that. What kind of drama is going to stir up between all of the cast members? I can't wait to see what happens there. Madison, like I said, I feel like she's becoming a lot more confident just in what she was able to do and everything. I think that whole situation is very interesting. Can't wait to see how that all turns out. But overall, guys, I'm very happy that the show is back. Love this episode overall. It was different from the first episode, but I do think next week is going to be back to basics. It's going to be more of the first show, things like that. I can't wait to see the way that turns out, and the way that Chet is going to change things. All three of them clearly do have different visions, and I'm looking forward to seeing how those visions are going to intertwine, or are they going to clash and they're not going to go together. A lot of things to happen this season. Really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen, and we're definitely going in a much different direction than last season. This is not just who will Adam choose. I mean, that's the furthest question that we have. I don't really think, so far, it doesn't really matter who Darius chooses. I mean, we haven't even seen the girls yet, so yeah, it doesn't really matter now, but I feel like that's not going to be the big question this season. The big question this season is who's really going to end up, taking over, who's really going to end up having the most control. I'm looking forward to seeing what's really going to happen with that. But overall, guys, as much as you guys saw this episode, absolutely love this episode. Great premiere overall. Really happy the show is back, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for Feed the Beast. I know I know I didn't get a chance to review the first episode or the second episode, but I will review both episodes back to back. I didn't get a chance to review because of if you guys saw that singing thing I did, I wasn't able to review Feed the Beast because of that, but I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.